It was actually just in my last headphone review when I covered the Shure SRH1540, which I really liked for what they are and kinda even loved more so for what they were even intended to do. Now the Shure SRH1540, the high-end closed-back model from Shure, is not that. Whatever that means, but I'm gonna let you know later on. So for now, let's check the carrying case here, and as you can see, it's a hard case, quite a bulky one though. And that is not because the headphones are bulky, but just because they don't really fold or rotate or something like that. What you get underneath here is a spare pair of ear cups, and you also get a spare cable, because you get the same cable twice, which is actually something very neat of Shure, because in case something breaks, you always have that already and you don't have to buy it, which saves you some costs on the long term. Now, obviously, we also get a 1/4-inch adapter, which you can already see here. The cable's quality is absolutely fine. It's not maybe the most flexible one, and it's not ever really straight 100%, but it's good enough. Of course, it is replaceable, otherwise we wouldn't need 2 cables of those, and you can already see here right and left. Red, of course, is right. You just plug them in. And the good thing about this solution is actually if you kind of maybe get somewhere stuck, they just pull out, so they shouldn't be damaged, which is definitely something nice to see. Now, otherwise, the thing that I'm not the biggest fan of is, as you can see, they are quite wide, and this is a stiff mechanism since they don't fold. And that is a little bit something that has to do with the fit that I'm gonna go into later on. Now here, the padding, not really thick, but soft, which is absolutely fine. And due to the kind of minimalistic design, they actually are super flexible, and I think they are very, very durable. Also, the mechanism here doesn't maybe have steps, but it never changed on its own, so it's stiff enough. The plastic here is absolutely of fine quality also, otherwise they did use good materials and the craftsmanship is really nice. Now the ear cups, they are obviously also replaceable, but I have to say I don't see any need to replace these, because as you can see here, very deep, so your ears shouldn't touch on the inside as well as on the outside, because good enough here as well. They are very nice because this memory foam is so plush. They are kind of ventilated with this perforated design also in the inside, which makes them super extremely comfortable. And the first moment when I had this on Can Jam, I was actually super impressed. And what I didn't really notice all that early, but after a few minutes already, is that the fit is a little bit weird, because the moment I have them stretched out wide enough so they actually go low enough to cover my whole ears, they get already too wide because of this curvature. So of course you could maybe bend that in, but if I have them, for example, smaller, it kind of lifts them here, which just doesn't give you the same feel. So you have to kind of get them big enough so they are properly at the bottom, but then it could already happen that they lift at the top, which is weird. So they never, at least for my head size, if you have a smaller head, feel quite right. They feel like for very big heads. The comfort though is absolutely great, almost I would say too good, because it also therefore kind of limits the fit, because the fit is almost a little bit too light. It could be a little bit more clamping force, because those super plush and comfortable ear pads, they would definitely cover for a little bit more pressure, which I would have preferred. So a little bit more clamping pressure, which you could achieve as well if you maybe bend them. But comfortable for hours and hours, it's just a little bit weird fit that I couldn't get quite behind. Now, isolation is a little bit less than on the 940, because for some reason, even though of course closed back, they do isolate quite well, but maybe not quite as much as some other ones with velour and such. But it is totally on a fine level. Leakage is there, and like I said on that review of the 940, I will include the leakage test soon. Once again, not yet, because I'm actually recording both reviews on the same day. Now, soundstage. It's good. It's actually quite wide, but therefore also suffers in terms of imaging. Especially when you play games, I noticed that I could hear the footsteps, but I couldn't quite locate them nearly as good as on better headphones. So the bigger than usual soundstage for and closed back suffers with a little bit less imaging, in case that's important for you. Now, how easy are they to drive? Actually moderately easy. You don't need anything special. Of course, a headphone amp will always give you more clarity, more power and everything else, so consider that, but it's not really necessary. But in this price range, you definitely should do. Now, about the sound, and one thing that proves that I'm not quite fully behind them is that I don't really have even a nickname for that, which I usually have for all the ones that kinda mean something to me. So why don't I have a nickname for these? Because they are, for the price, just not giving me anything special. Now, don't get me wrong, what they are is quite neutral with a little bit emphasis on the bass, a little bit also elevated mids, but not much, and pretty much similar highs to compared to the 1840, which were definitely way more neutral, and for some people they were maybe too piercing in the highs, but I like them. The bass is definitely more here, but I heard some people, which is something that I didn't quite get, is that they thought the 1840s had already too much bass, which I just don't see happening, because these, even though they have elevated bass, it never feels colored or something like that, but that's already the main thing. These are totally, I'm not quite sure how to put it, characterless. They lack of character because they don't add anything to the sound, which is good. In case what they are made for mastering, mixing and so on, they are just about right. But if you want to listen to music and enjoy it, then these are absolutely not it. Because the bass, good quality, also quite nice depth and layers and so on, with a nice punch, but definitely not too much, and never on the overemphasized size. It's a little bit more than super neutral like on the 1840, but it never feels like out of place. It always feels still nicely balanced, especially with the mids being a little bit elevated, which gives a little bit of a nice touch towards the vocals that stand out just a tad little bit, but just a tad little bit. And then we get these highs that are also almost too accurate because they don't sparkle, but they are definitely not dull, which is good. So for really precise, accurate, natural mixing, these are absolutely it. But if you want to get something, which is what I would like to get from a $500 headphone, something special, then it's just not it. And that's why I will actually keep it a little bit shorter here and already get to the conclusion. The comfort is super nice, but it's the little bit of weird comfort that I can't just get fully behind, because at least for my head, they didn't work out properly. It's not that they didn't work at all. I could still use them at all, but it felt like due to this whole mechanism of this kind of spring, they always felt like this would kind of push them upwards, which was a little bit weird. And then when I made them longer, they just didn't fit so much anymore. But that's the only thing. And the sound, for 500, I want to get something that makes me enjoy music. But this is not really made for the music listener, this is made for the professional. And if he just wants an accurate representation of what the sound should sound like, without any coloration, but with all the details and all the depth in it, to get your work done, then absolutely yes. But it also gets it done quite in a different way compared, for example, to the 1919 Pro from Biodynamic that I reviewed, which I said the same thing for. I wouldn't really use them for music listening, even though in some ways maybe they have more character at least than these, but they had even more so depth in the bass, also a little bit more punch, or a little bit more elevated if you used the bassier pads than compared to the analytical ones. But they had something unique, which these kind of don't do. Nothing stands out, which could be also a great thing. But for someone who wants to listen to music and not work with music, this is maybe not the right thing. But depending on who you are, it could be just that. So let's just cut it off here, and I hope it was helpful to you. Like I said, for the price, for what I look for into a headphone, it's not the right thing. But hey, that's just my opinion. Okay, until next time, bye.